China really seems to be the big if in the global economy. If it reopens, this could happen. If it doesn't reopen, these other things could happen. You actually say China is in a catch-22. You have a really great turn of phrase, a catch-2022 when it comes to COVID. Please explain.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a very complicated picture at the moment, of course, where restrictions have been lifted and pared back. The first risk is the most obvious one, which is that you get a China which faces a fast rise in cases, the absence of vaccinations, and all sorts of constraints rather on the healthcare system create a very serious healthcare crisis facing the country. But on the other hand, what you could get in the coming months, not in the coming weeks, as markets for some reason seem to believe, but in the coming months, is increasingly if consumer activity does pick up, then you're starting to look at the reacceleration of pricing, price pressures and so forth. But you have to have. It's very difficult to navigate those two policies at this present moment.
I want to push back on one thing. You're saying without a vaccine, but China does have a vaccine. They don't have an mRNA vaccine. So are you saying an mRNA vaccine in China is a complete game changer?
I think that is going to be one of the most critical components that is needed in order to have a reopening that can be sustained. Without that, there is still a serious risk, of course, of certain cities, of certain neighborhoods having to reimpose lockdowns, especially as we get into this the winter period where outbreaks could be very large. And of course, as you get towards the Chinese New Year and so forth. So an mRNA vaccine, I do believe, is ultimately the game changer in this picture, as it has been for us.
Yeah, you're mentioning Lunar New Year, which comes up in the first quarter of next year, generally around the first week of February. That's generally a time of easing work and production in China and other Asian countries as well, but it's a big ramp up before then. But right now you're saying every sector in China is declining. Are we still going to see that same ramp up heading into Lunar New Year?
Yeah, I mean, the Chinese economic picture is incredibly weak right now. It's been weakening every year, and especially by year-over-year comparisons, things are looking pretty bleak. The fact is this, that, all year long, if there's one set of results that's been clear in the China Beige Book data, it's been that, look, companies do not want to invest, they don't want to hire till there's more stability and certainty out there. That isn't going to change right away. So it's going to take a while for consumers to regain the confidence to spend and for businesses to regain the confidence to expand operations and to start investing again, which means that the economic recovery is going to take a while to be seen in the data and to be seen on the ground.
Well, a lot of optimism, at least here in the United States, when it comes to Chinese internet stocks. We've seen JD.com and Alibaba rally in the last few days. So my question to you is, and again, it's a big if China doesn't reopen fully, what do you think it means for the rest of the countries, the rest of the global economy that really depends on China as a manufacturing center?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a picture where so far China not running at full pace has been actually great for global inflationary pressures. It's something the Fed obviously is watching very closely and now has to obviously take into account. A China not opening not fully reopening is certainly going to be a big positive from the inflation angle. It will help keep commodities prices down and so on and so forth. So that is probably the only optimistic take otherwise, which is a net negative when it comes to global growth, because you're talking about a slowing down global economy next year. And if China doesn't fully reopen, well, then China is not going to be doing much to push back on that trend either. It's just going to add on to the overall global economic slowdown.